Hey everyone, my name is Chuck Black. In this video, I'm going to be working on a landscape painting. Now this one started about a few weeks ago when I took a long trip into the backcountry near my home here in southwest Montana. And I thought it would only be appropriate to show you some of that footage that I captured while I was out in the mountains and give you a little of the backstory behind this painting and bring you along for part of the journey. So sit back and enjoy. So that day started out as a day that was meant to be a lot shorter than what it became. I thought that if I could get to the top of a ridge, and I had all my painting gear, I had about 40 to 50 pounds of painting gear, camera equipment. It was going to be a day of painting, a day of gathering reference. And I thought that if I could get to a top of a ridge, which was about 4 or 5 miles in, that I could hike the ridge back out and get back to where I had originally started that day safely and much easier, or at least I thought it would be fairly easy to do. But what happened was once I got up to the top, that I realized it was going to be much more difficult, much longer. I had to go around some big cliffs that I couldn't get down. And the day turned into about a 14 or 15 mile day. And considering the weight that I had on my back and the terrain that I had to go up and over all day, it became very difficult for me. And I actually ran out of food about halfway through the day. And of course, I had a water pump with me. I was pumping my water along the way and fueling my body with water, but I became very exhausted, very drained. And towards the end of the day, though, it was the last mountain that I had to climb up and over. And as I got to the very top, I took this shot here, and I hadn't looked back behind me. I was just gathering reference, and I was trying to gather shots for an Art in the Outdoors video. And what happened was after the shot, I got up to the top and I turned around and I saw this most outstanding backdrop, one of the most beautiful landscapes I had ever seen. And the way that the sun was positioned low in the sky right before sunset, it just made for such an awe-inspiring view. It was one of the most dramatic backdrops that I had ever personally witnessed. And so it kind of really made the whole day worth it in the end, because it was something that I just never expected to see. And that's the theme that I want to, that's the reference that I want to use for today's painting. So I'm going to be working on this using this reference material, so it'll allow me to provide a little more insight for you about how I work when it comes to using reference material and how I go about my painting, which is going to be a little bit differently than what I normally do it. So that's the theme for this week's painting, today's painting, and it should be a lot of fun. So let's get started. So one of the first things that I think about when starting a painting like this is how am I going to layer things? What order do I want to go in as I build this up to completion? And what I like to do is start with the sky first and work my way forward, as I'm sure many people do. But then when you get into the foreground, into the rocks, we've got a lot of elements such as the shadows, the highlights, we've got some snow, some rocks themselves, some trees. And so just determining what order I'm going to layer those on, especially since we're using acrylic paint, can be very important. It can also save you time if you put them in the right order. So I'm going to talk about that today, but the first thing I want to do is get the sky laid in, and then what I'm going to do is move on to the horizon. So what I've got here, I'm going to be using a 1-inch flat brush to start with. I've got a lot of colors here. This one in particular is a new color I'm trying. This is just a mixing gray, a neutral gray. And I haven't experimented a lot with grays before, so this is something new that I'm going to be putting on my palette in the upcoming weeks and months, just trying out this new color. But I've got titanium white, carbon black, cerulean blue, cobalt blue, of course the neutral gray, napthol red, cad orange, and cad yellow. And I've got carbon black, and the red would be my only golden fluid acrylics, and the rest is liquitex soft body. So as I think about the sky, one of the first things I want to do is lay in, so I've got some cobalt blue. I'm going to grab some of the yellow. Just a little bit of yellow. I'm pulling a lot of that off. It's going to mix kind of a turquoise color. Add some more to that. More blue. So I want to lay in the blue sky before I get to the clouds. Maybe some cerulean blue might be a better blue for the sky. I kind of like that hint of yellow. Might want to go a bit lighter than that. I'm just going to grab some white. This is going to be an interesting color for the blue sky. I might do better by going with a pre-mixed blue, something with a little bit of a brighter tone. So this one is called light blue permanent. You can see it's a very teal color. I'll try that. Yeah, that might be better. Probably go with that instead. We can kind of paint over what I've got already, but for now I'll kind of leave it. It might be all right, mixture between both. I'm just going to get sort of some ideas of clouds. I'm painting around the clouds. I'm trying to envision how I want those clouds to be. And then kind of going around that in my head. No wrong way to go about the sky. I'm going to start with that. Okay. Next color I'm going to get is some cerulean blue, and I can use the color that I've already kind of mixed here. Mixed with some white. I'm going to try this gray. So you could just use a little bit of black, but I'm going to start moving away from some of the black. I like using black, but more so in the background or in the foreground. I'm going to start experimenting by using only this mixing gray in the background and using more of the black in the foreground, just to see how that makes a difference, what that does for me. So I'm just kind of thinking about the shadows in the clouds right now. This is very much so the blocking in stage. I had a question just this morning, actually, via email about blocking in. What colors do I use to block in? Well, the colors you use to block in really is just going to depend on the painting that you're doing. And so in this case, the picture that I have has a lot of blue tones, a lot of gray tones, and then some reds and some oranges. So I'm simply going to block in the painting with colors that are as close to the finished product as I can possibly get them. There's really no reason for me to try and block in a painting with anything but the correct colors. So I would say just what colors to block in your painting with? Well, I would just use the colors that are as close to whatever you're painting as you can. There's really no secret to layering with acrylics. It's just trying to get the color as closest as you can with the fewest amount of layers. I'd rather do less layers than more layers. Just gonna saving time is always a big deal for me. So okay, I got some white. So I'm kind of creating some highlights. And remember, this is more or less ideas of clouds. I'd say the biggest thing when it comes to blocking in is to not get caught up with detail. Just get it close. Get the colors in the general area. Get them in the areas that you know they should be. Just don't worry about the rest. I'm going to grab a clean brush. Try to get some brighter whites. You know, when it comes to painting clouds, I don't really think it matters if you're blocking in or if you're putting on the final touches. You really shouldn't be worried about details when you're putting in clouds. The more random you can make your clouds appear, even if it is very deliberate in what you're doing, just a touch of randomness adds to the realism, because skies are the most random things that occur in nature. They change constantly, by the minute, even by the second. So when you try to paint them too perfectly, that's usually when you can mess up. So especially with clouds, just keep it random. Okay, so I can work on that. That's just a good start. It might be slightly dark for what I want to do, but I don't know yet if it is too dark. It's a little bit darker than the photo I have, or at least it appears to be with all this white going on. And that's probably something you've heard before too, and it's totally true. When you paint something like the sky, and you're just starting, or not even a sky, when you just start a painting and you've got one part blocked in, it's going to appear darker than what it actually is, because you're comparing it to all the white left on the canvas. I suppose that's a good point of why some people like to prime their canvas with an off tone, maybe a transparent earth orange, some kind of earth tone, just to tone it down. It allows you to see the colors that you're laying on better. I've learned to work well this way. I just kind of know and accept the fact that this is going to be darker in the beginning. It's going to appear that way, but then once I add the other elements, I'll actually realize how light this really is. So I just learned to go with it, but toning the canvas a certain color could help with that. That's just a good point to make. Okay, so next part, I want to work on this mountain ridge. And I'm just going to layer I'm going to divide this into segments. And to make it easy and understandable, I'm going to take some black. So this is something I don't normally do when I'm working on my own, but for the video purposes here, I'm going to show you this so that you have just a little bit better understanding of my thought process. I block this painting mentally in my head, and I'm going to do each block, the one block at a time, starting with the back one, moving forward and forward. So the first block is going to be everything above that black line because it has a slightly different atmospheric look. It's got more blue tones than orange tones or red tones, and things are going to be more faded. It's a good portion to block off right here. And if you look at the reference photo, you can kind of see why. And then the next thing that I'm going to do is everything in this block here, down, over, and I'll kind of blend it together right here. And then of course, as I move further into the painting, I'll just kind of touch this. I'll do 1, 2, 3. The trees will be another block. My final block of color will come obviously when I do the foreground right through here, everything below that line. So that's kind of how I'm thinking about this. And I do this because it's going to save me time. It's going to help me develop this in a very organized way, a very technical way that just keeps things correct in my mind. It allows me to make sense of things as I move along rather than getting ahead of myself. So when I'm painting directly from a reference photo, and this is not true if I'm painting from imagination, and many of you know that I love to paint from imagination, but this is a reference photo. It's a slightly different experience, and I'm aiming to capture the essence of my reference material rather than developing an idea in my mind. When I develop an idea in my head and I really don't know where things are going to go, I like to get everything on there at once. But I already know the end result, and then because I put everything on there at once, it allows me to visualize where I want to take the next step. Because we're using a reference photo, I know what the next step is going to be. I know what the end result is more or less going to be. So by blocking it off, I can segment each portion of the reference and go about it in a very time-efficiently manner, if that makes sense. So it really just depends what I'm painting. Reference photos, when I know the end result, this is kind of how I think about it. Okay, so that being said, let's move on to, I'm going to try this mixing gray. Take some of this mixing gray and cobalt blue. Mix the cobalt blue and gray together. I want more blue than that. That might even take some red. That red is just going to, it's going to bring it towards that violet scale. Just a touch. Might even take some black. I don't think that mixing gray is going to be dark enough for me, so I've got a touch of black in this. You know, and mixing the right colors, especially when you're painting off of a reference photo, when you want it to be a certain color, just kind of comes from experience. Okay, now I'm going to try this. Yeah, I think that's I think that's going to be pretty close to what I want. So I'm going to start with over here. I'm just going to get the horizon line. Now, I'm loosely using the reference photo. I'm not going to copy every single bump and crevice in the rock. I just want the overall design to be close. Now you can see what I mean by adding this dark color. Instantly you can see how all of a sudden you start to compare it with the sky and you go, oh boy, that sky really wasn't as dark as I thought. I might actually be all right. Now we've got snow in this painting, but I'm going to add the snow afterwards. I'm just going to go right over the top. So the first priority is just to get this color blocked in. I'm going to need more of this color. I can already tell. So I'm going to take a whole bunch of blue. That's a lot there. I'll grab some of that gray, just kind of repeat what I did. Grab some of the black. Mix that together. Okay. More of that gray. All right, whatever, that's pretty close. And I just want to block in this color. So this first layer might not go on 100% perfect. I might need a second layer just to cover the canvas very well, but I'd like to get it to be a nice thick coat. And I've got a portion here that's got some highlight, so I am going to go around that highlight. This is going to be a really cool painting, I can already tell. It has such a personal meaning to me. Oh, I remember looking back and seeing this just unknowingly. Had no idea what was going to be behind me when I turned around. And to see this backdrop was just something else after the day that I'd had. Okay, now I'm going to go up close to that highlight. It's going to be somewhere right in there. And I'm just going to leave it at that. Now, I'm going to give that just a touch of time to dry. That might actually be getting there already. Yeah, I could probably just layer. Stuff dries very quick. I'll go ahead and use the paint I have to get a nice coat. I'm applying lighter pressure, just hoping that that's going to go over the top. It's not going to lift any paint up underneath. So this is going on very thick. Much thicker than I normally do because I do know what I'm after. This painting isn't from total imagination, which many of my videos are. So I'm just putting on a lot of paint this time because I know that what I'm doing is the right color. The color that I'm adding is the right color. Okay. Just trying to get all that paint off the brush. Smooth it out. Okay. Looking pretty nice. Okay, now the next thing that I can do is I can take some cerulean blue with some yellow. Touch of white, small amount of white. A little more yellow. Okay, now I'm gonna have to wait for it to dry. I'm gonna let this dry and I'll come back in just a few minutes. All right, so this is nice and dry now. And the next thing I wanna do is I'm gonna lay in some a slightly greener tone, but I want something softer to lay this in with. So I'm gonna switch to, this is a filbert brush, and it's just got a little bit of a thicker profile, so it's gonna be able to blend. It's kind of, you could use something similar to like one of these round blenders that I like, or anything with more of a roundish shape I think is gonna be better. So I'm gonna get some water in my brush, and I'm going to probably just use the rest of this cobalt blue that I have. I'm going to get some white and black, just mixing some gray, I guess, into that. And I want to add some yellow. So, it's going to be more of a greenish tone. See what this looks like. I can kind of test it out by mixing it over the top. I think I can go with, I'm going to take some more cobalt blue and get a deeper tone. Just more of a vibrant color. This might be more what I'm looking for. I'll probably just stick with that. Okay. And right off the edge of this, where I've stopped the blue, I'm going to take this green tone. I'm going to bring it all the way up, about up in there. Okay, now I might be able to get away with adding some white to that, just to brighten it up a touch. Adding some more yellow. I want that to stand out slightly more. Green, yellow. Okay, that's probably closer to what I'm after. And I'm pressing down hard and then kind of lifting up towards the edges. Okay, it's looking pretty good. Now, I think what I can get away with is adding more yellow with a touch of white. Okay, so this is going to be brighter, more green. There we go. Now I'm going to fade it about halfway up into there, right up in there, and it's going to be thicker down low, more prevalent down lower towards that edge that I'm creating here. I'm going to bring some up into this area, a couple random spots. Okay, grab some more of this color, bring it up into here a little bit as well. All right, looking good. Perfect. Now, next thing is I kind of think about what I'm going to do with the highlight here. I'm going to grab, I still have some of this color that I use for this blue. I'm just going to add some blocks of this color right there, and then I'm just going to let that dry. I'm actually going to take a dry brush, just so some of that's got a little bit too much water in it. Okay. Looking good. Now, the next thing I want to think about is we've got some snow that I want to lay in. Now, I'm trying to think of a brush that I want to lay in this snow with. I think probably could go with that round brush that I was just using here. I've got some of this color right here already mixed. It's kind of an off blue. Get some water in there. I think what I want, this has got more of a like a turquoise feel to it. I'm gonna add some red, some cobalt blue. Let's see here. I think I can add some more red to that. This is going to be a lot of red. And then blue. I'm going to mix some of that more of this same color I started with back in there. So this is more of a reddish tinge to it. I think that's kind of what I'm after. Make a nice warm, okay, that might be, okay, I think that might be pretty good. Now, what I'm gonna do, my photo has got snow kind of all over here. And the cool thing about snow is that if I were to be at this location a week earlier or a week after, it would look different. So this doesn't have to be perfect. I just want the snow to be in a place that is seemingly correct. So it doesn't have to be precise. But I'm going to do it probably as close as I can. So I'm just kind of going back and forth. I'm kind of looking at the photo. I think it would be cool to have some snow up here as well. This is where you kind of use your artistic license to imagine, what if I was here a week earlier and there was some more snow still left. Kind of be cool. So now what this does is it gives us the effect of a bowl. This is a bowl, an old glacier bowl, and it's a circle, but there's no snow over here. But by adding that snow, you can kind of visualize now that edge coming back up towards you. Kind of roll that off my brush and pick up that excess again. Okay. Couple of spots. It's looking pretty good. I'm going to add just a bloop, 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 bloop. Some variety in there. Grab some more of that color. Okay. Be a little bit more precise here. Because the shape of the snow in these glacier cirques, these glacial bowls, will kind of form the shape of the terrain in your head. The snow is going to stay in certain places, and if it's not in the right place, it might not look like the correct shape you're trying to portray. So the shape of the snow can be very important. I'll try to get that as best as I can. Okay, looking pretty good. Wash my brush. Now, next thing, pure white. Gotta have highlights. I'm gonna go right in the bottom side. What I just did. We're gonna add some snow. This is very thick paint. Again, when I know what I'm after, I use thicker paint just because I'm not afraid of making mistakes as much. Don't have to be as careful with what I'm after. Okay. Let's do a little more white right there. Grab some more. And I'm going to add a couple patches on the bottom there. And then here. All right. Now I'm going to grab some of this mixing gray again. For the area of the rock, it's going to be kind of in the highlight. I'm going to get some gray. I'm going to add some red, some orange, reddish orange. Just get some on my brush and then mix it into the gray. And let's test that out real quick. I think probably get some more orange. I might even be able to use yellow. I'm going to try orange. Orange is pretty close to yellow. It's probably going to be fairly close to what we're after. I can grab some black. Add some black into that. A touch more orange. Okay, so that's probably going to be close. So what I'm going to do, first things first, is I'm going to go around the white areas that I left. So I added some extra blue here. You saw me add that. And we'll get to that in a second. But first things first, I know that the white areas are for sure going to have the highlights because I left it. So I'm just filling in those areas first and foremost. Okay, now the areas that I filled in with blue, I'm going to cover some of that up. I'm going to add some rock formations. Just going to think about this real quick. I want a lot of randomness. I want to also leave some of that. I don't want to cover it up too much, but I do want to cover up a fair portion of it. Okay, I'm going to fade some of it down there, fade some of it right here. I'm going back over some of those areas, getting all the paint that I mixed up here, making sure that the areas I do want to cover, areas that I do want covered, that I cover them very well. So I want that to be nice and thick, very deliberate. Okay, I think that's pretty good for now. Take some of that color, and I'm going to add it to a few spots. Just kind of trickle it out here in a few spots. I have this peak right there highlighted as well. Okay, looking pretty good. I've still got some of this blue here, so I'm going to use that to my advantage. And I'm just going to add some extra detail, cleaning up some of my shadows. And right in the crack right there, can add some more. Okay, I think we're just about there. I'm going to stick with that. I'm going to go back to my blue. That would be the snow in the shade. Just using my best judgment. Looking pretty good. Okay. Now, next thing I'm going to do is we want to have some kind of trees back here. I'm going to switch. This is like an old, thick filbert brush, kind of a round, kind of pointed. I think it's going to work good for this. I'm going to go back to this green we mixed up. Not quite dry yet. Add some more blue. I'm also going to add some black. Just to get a darker tone. Still kind of green, but darker. I think I want it to be lighter. I'm just going to grab some white. Add some kind of a bluish white to that. Just lighten it a bit. Okay, I think that might be, yeah, I think that might be pretty close. I'm going to go ahead and stick with that. Now, I want to just add the indication of some trees. So this is a valley with a lot of miniature meadows, patches of trees, a lot of moisture, a lot of water. So these trees are not going to be super detailed. It's just patting my brush on. And I want to show you this. All of this is just to show you examples of how to use this in any painting you're going after. So in this case, we're painting trees, but I don't want you to think about these as trees that you have to paint the branches and everything in between. Just make the marks on the canvas that give you the indication of trees. It's all we're after. Just pat, 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 pat. And this brush for me works good for making trees like this. We want less detail. In a landscape painting like this, I always like to have less detail in the back. You know, I do have a lot of appreciation for more realistic art, traditional style landscape, and I know some of my imaginary scenes can be kind of a mixture between realism and maybe surrealism, imagination. And I add a lot of detail in those. But when it comes to something like this, I really like to keep it slightly more loose in the back. It's going to just bring the focus to the front just that much more. So I'm just kind of softening, rounding off some of these patches of trees. Oh, it's going to look beautiful. Okay, so the next thing I'm going to be looking at is the area of where we have some bright green grass. And I think I need some more yellow for this, more of a yellow tone. So I've got some yellow, and I'm going to switch to kind of this old flat brush. It's pretty worn out, but it's going to give me a little bit of a sharper edge. And I'm going to get some gray mixed with that, along with some white. Okay, so that might be pretty good. Yeah, I think that's going to be about the right tone. So I'm going to layer this on about right there. Going to come down. I'm just going to block in this area all the way over to about right there. Try to follow some of the lines that I've made. Beautiful. This color covers the canvas really nice. Get some more of that. And just kind of fade it up into here. Looking good. Now, I'm going to take some cobalt blue, mix it in. So it's going to be slightly darker. I'm going to blend it off into here. Take some more blue, mix it in. We just want to tone this down. We want to create a transition color between this lighter green and some of these darker shades. And I'm kind of going over some of the trees that I've created so far, but that'll be okay. I can go back over the top with the trees. Okay, now I'm going to grab quite a bit more blue and along with some black. I'm going to mix it in with our color here. This is going to be slightly darker. I'm going to try to fade this down. Grab some water, keep that flowing nice. I want this to blend fairly well right through here. There can be some imperfections because grass isn't going to grow perfect either. Okay. I think that looks fairly good. Probably just going to leave that for now. And the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to think about, probably going to keep the same brush. Water's getting dirty, but I think we're all right. I'm going to grab some white. I'm going to think about the rocks that are on this big old cliff right next to what we just did. And it's going to be more of, when I kind of sit back and look at it, it's got more of a reddish hue than what we had in the background. So I'm just going to get some red, but I do want some orange in there. It's just not going to be, it's going to be more red than orange. Probably somewhere right in there. I'm going to mix that in with the color, grab some of this gray, utilize some of that there. I'm going to test it out real quick. That might be, that might be close to what I want. I think we'll stick with that for right now. And what I'm going to do, yeah, I think we're going to be all right with this color. It seems really pink for the moment, but I think that it won't be quite so pink once I get the rest of it in. First thing I'm going to do is block in this color. Now, the great thing about acrylics is you can really overdo it, and it doesn't matter because it'll dry so fast. We can just layer right over the top. So I'm going to block over what I have with this color because I just don't want to waste a lot of time. So a lot of this color will be hidden. I'm going to get some more white and black, mix some gray, just a bit more gray into that. A lot of this color is going to get hidden. But this is a good starting point. It's a good base. More white, just getting some more gray into this. Just mute it down a little bit, tone it back. And I've got some lines sketched in here, and so I'm kind of going around those lines because I want to maintain some of that Okay, just about there. And I'm kind of blend some of this into the green. Okay. I'll wash my brush. Next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to get some more yellow and black and gray. Yellow, black, white. Just kind of mixing a gray, greenish, yellowish tone. I'm going to mix some of that right into this little bit of color that I have here still. I just want a different tone. Different color, same value. So I'm not looking to darken it or lighten it. I just want to change the hue a little bit. So kind of go from a pinkish to a greenish. Mix some more white. Just try to keep that value about the same. Okay. What I'm going to do is we've got some layers of rock here, which has, looks like some foliage, some grass, something that are kind of growing on these layers. So they're like little steps. And so I'm just putting in, blocking in where I think this grass is growing. Not worried about anything other than getting that color on there. I want to keep it about the same, so we've got kind of a line through here and a line through there. Another one about right there. Pretty random. I'm not looking to copy this exactly, I just want it to be close. A couple darker tones in there as well. Mix it up a bit. Okay. Looking pretty good. I'm going to switch to, this is a smaller flat brush, 1/4 inch wide flat brush. Get some water. Now I'm going to mix kind of the same, we'll mix it right over here. Kind of the same pinkish tone, orange, red. I don't want quite as much in there this time though. Just some color. And I do want some black, some gray. Okay, now I think this might be a little bit lighter. Yeah. So it's slightly lighter. We're going to create some highlights going in between the greens. Should be a good color. Pretty random, but I want the pattern to be close to what the real thing is, but the individual details, the specifics within that pattern, not overly concerned about it. I'm just kind of creating those layers. So just using the corner of the brush, kind of just create some narrow patterns and then switching it up, trying to use make some flat patterns as well, some thicker patterns. So just rotating the brush as I go. Not a lot of contrast yet, but we'll get there. Okay. I think we can go back to, I've got some of this color here is still kind of wet. Kind of a bluish color. I'm going to grab more blue. See if I've got enough black here. Blue. I'm going to need to get more black. Some black. I'm also going to add some red. I'm going to create a very deep, of a violet bluish color. I think I'm going to need to get more blue. Some red, some black. Touch more black and blue. Let's test it out real quick here. Might be, we can probably go with some red. Maybe some white. Just lighten it up slightly. Okay, I'm just going to stick with that for now. I'm going to create some shadows. Be very careful. Just kind of staring at my photo, trying to figure out my next move. And it doesn't have to be the same, but I'd like it to be close. Just add some shadow right through here. The back side of this, gonna have some shadow, along with maybe right there. See how we can just rotate that flat brush, get some nice thin lines when we need it. Just a good versatile brush. Kind of just winging it at a couple spots here. Some of this isn't going to be exact, but gives me a pretty good idea. So I'll keep adding some highlights just like this. Sorry, some shadows. Just start breaking up the rock as best I can. Yeah, it's going to take a little while, but I think you get the picture. So I'll keep going just like that. And then the next thing I'll be doing, I'm going to take some, I'll probably go back to that brush that I used for the trees before. I'm going to be mixing some white, some black, some yellow, kind of create a darker greenish tone. And see if this will work. I'm going to start creating some trees. Probably get some more white than that. Just tapping it downwards. Create kind of a point up top. More of a blunt underside. Gives the illusion of trees. See how easy that is to create. Beautiful effect. I'll continue with this down through here. And as I move into the shadows, I'll grab more black and blue. Just create a deeper tone, more of a bluish tone, slightly darker as well. Just like that. See how nice that looks? And so I'll continue to work on some trees and stuff like that. And this part of the rock through here will be just about the same as what I'm doing up here. And all I'm going to do is, as I get into some more detail with the rock, is I'm going to mix kind of a medium gray, maybe not quite as dark as I had. It's kind of the same tone, but a little more white as the shadows I had before. I'm going to start really going through this, just analyzing what I've got. Some more white than that. And just using a round brush or a liner brush, I'm going to start layering on some details. It's going to be really cool. Small cracks and crevices in the rocks. The more details I add like this, the more realism we're going to be able to pull out of here. So I'm just going to bounce around with this round brush. It's going to get very repetitive. And I'm going to just completely work over this hill. You'll see me just smear on some more of the same color I mixed for this reddish pinkish tone. Just kind of slap it on right here and add some shading and maybe some more snow the same way I did back here. And then that's pretty much it for the background. All right, so I'm getting close. I really love how everything has kind of come together in the mid portion here. I want to do a little bit more work on the clouds. And then after that, what I'll do is go to the foreground. I'll finish the foreground and just kind of assess how everything is in between here. But I think I can do some more work on the clouds, kind of nail that home. So I'm going to take, I've got some light blue permanent I just added. And I'm going to go to my round, these nice round brushes, round blender brushes. What I'm going to do, I think the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to grab some white and mix it. Mix it with this light blue permanent. And I'm going to go back over the blue sky portion. I really want to get that blue sky as vibrant as I can get it. I don't want to overdo it, but I want it to be covered with this color. I'm going to get that. Just a few more spots. Down low here. Sneak a little bit right through there. A little break in the clouds back here. Basically what I'm looking to do is soften the sky slightly. So that's, yeah, okay. So that looks pretty good. While I still have some of that color, I think what I'm going to do, and I'm going to look for, I'm going to go with my filbert brush. While I still have some of this color here, I'm going to mix some cerulean blue with this. And maybe a touch of black. I might go with some more cerulean blue and white. I might even grab, I got some red over here. Touch of red to that. A little more white. Okay, I'll try that. Yep, okay. I think I could use some more white actually though. Mix some white into that. I want to create, I've got a small ridge back here that I didn't really include yet. I might go over a little bit of that ridge in front of it. Should overlap just fine. Perfect. Just gives us a little more depth in our picture. We can kind of picture that going way back there. Okay, so now I still kind of have that color here. Move the palette a little bit. All right. Still kind of got that color. I think we can add maybe some red to that. That might be close. I think we've got it too dark still. Grab some white. Okay, I think this will be fairly close to what I'm looking for. Yeah. Okay, so while I've got a lot of paint on the brush, I'm going to focus on the dark areas. Not going to move into that transition of the lighter portions of the cloud yet. Okay, but now as I start to run out of paint on the brush, then I can kind of move it into the lighter areas and blend that out just slightly. Doesn't have to be perfect yet because we'll go back over it with white. A little bit on the underside of this cloud here. Grab some more now. Start with the darker areas. And as I run out of paint, kind of blend that out into the lighter portions. Beautiful. Love it. Okay, last thing that I want to do, and I think, see if I can get some more. I might have enough white right here. We'll try it. I'm just going to take some solid white. Nice thick paint. Yeah, I'll probably have enough. I'm just brightening some of these highlights, making them stand out. Don't need to go overboard, but that should work pretty well. I'm going to grab some water. So now we've got kind of some transparent paint. That's going to blend nicely into the shadows. Perfect. I don't think I need to do a whole lot more as of right now, but we're going to set ourselves up. I've got black, yellow, maybe some of this. Just get a couple different blues in here. Black, yellow, a little bit of blue. Probably use some more black. Black, yellow, cerulean blue. And our trees are going to be right through here. Probably use some more black with that. Just to give you an idea of where we're headed. Not going to get too detailed. We'll have a tree line right there. And that's where the next video will pick back up. So for right now, I'm going to call this a day, let this dry, and I'll come back to it. All right, well, hey, as always, thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this and the story behind it. We'll pick back up, don't worry, and finish this in the next video. But until then, please be sure to check out my free print giveaway, as well as my eBay auctions and website. All of those links are in the description below if you'd like to support my channel. Thank you again so much for watching. See you next time.